So it has been over a week since the Nintendo Switch 2 launched, and I mean, it's been a pretty big success. 3.5 million sold in just 4 days is a very impressive number and is the fastest selling system of all time. So obviously, there is a marketplace for this system of a lot of people that want to upgrade their Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Switch 2 because, well, I mean, it's just a better system at the end of the day. The software lineup for the Switch 2 launch, though, was a bit kind of mixed. Obviously, you had some older third-party titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Street Fighter 6, slightly newer titles such as Sonic X Shadow Generations, and then your main first-party title with Mario Kart World. And obviously, some of these games are going to sell better than others. It seems like Cyberpunk has been selling pretty well on the Switch 2. I'm sure the attach rate for Mario Kart World is absolutely insane, but what about the future of the system as far as 2025 is concerned? Because some games have been announced and some games haven't been announced and some third-party games have been announced, and I kind of just want to talk about what we know when it comes to the future of the Nintendo Switch in 2025 and kind of that beyond portion, because I think there is a large segment that is kind of missing from the Nintendo Switch 2 right now, something that will probably easily be rectified, but I think it's worth talking about. So if this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button. Without any further ado, let's talk about things. So first off, we're going to talk about first-party offerings. I kind of use the term first party a bit loose in here because one of them is really a second party game, but I'm just throwing it in there just to throw it in there, honestly. Donkey Kong Bonanza is the next big Nintendo Switch 2 game that will be coming out in July. Now, for me, I feel like this could have actually been a release day game as well, just because of the fact that, you know, Mario Kart World is a great game, don't get me wrong, but it definitely leans more into the multiplayer aspect of the system than the single-player aspect. There wasn't like a real single-player game from Nintendo that you could pick up on day one for your Switch 2, and Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to slide into that slot, but I do think it probably could have been a launch title. The only other game that we know of that has a concrete release is Pokemon Legends ZA that will be coming out in October, which is technically a Switch 1 game that is just getting a Switch 2 version, so it's not necessarily exclusive to the Switch 2. Now, of course, there are some upgrades for games like Kirby and Super Mario Party Country Bear Jamboree. I'm not really including those because, like, I guess technically there's new stuff being added into them, but they're not really new games per se. I'm sure someone in the comments will freak out about that and be like, I can't believe you didn't include those. Like, bro, I'm not including those, especially considering I have never picked up Super Mario Country Bear Jamboree Party, and I never will. The other 4 games that don't have a release date are Metroid Prime 4, which is probably my most anticipated by far out of all of these titles because I think that's just going to be an awesome game that has a 2025 release window. Dragon Drive, which is the wheelchair basketball game, but supposedly you're not supposed to call them wheelchairs. I can't imagine this game being a rousing success or really costing all that much money. This obviously isn't going to be a big release for the system. Kirby Air Riders, I mean, I didn't really like the game on GameCube. Like, I don't know if that's considered to be a bad take or something like that, but I didn't really enjoy the game on the GameCube, so like I'll probably check out this game because hopefully it's, you know, better, but I don't know, I don't really care. And Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is technically a second party game because Koei Tecmo is the company that is working on it. But when you hear those 4 titles along with the other 2 titles that I mentioned, it definitely feels like something is kind of missing from this. Like, I'm not trying to diminish any of these games. I'm sure Donkey Kong Bonanza will be a big hit with people. Pokemon is always going to sell because it's Pokemon. But really, out of the other 4 games, Metroid Prime 4 is definitely the most attractive to me and is something I think will sell pretty well as well. Maybe 3 million units in a year, and we'll just have to wait and see. But it feels like a big kind of holiday title is at least missing as of right now because Metroid Prime 4, you know, Metroid is kind of a niche franchise. Kirby Air Riders, Kirby has become more popular with a lot of gamers, but still, that's not like a big, I must go out and get this system sort of game. Dragon Drive is a throwaway game, and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is going to be a fun game, but once again, I don't think that that's like a big holiday game. Now, obviously, a lot of people are, I guess, suspecting that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct happening between now and the end of the year, which, I mean, there will be, spoiler alert, but it kind of depends on when that Direct happens. If something happens in June, then there's a good chance that a larger title for this first holiday season will be announced. But if we get to the end of June and there is no Direct, and now we have to wait till September, I think the window of opportunity might be closing a little bit. You got to think, you got Splatoon 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Super Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Edition, all on the Switch in that first year of release of 2017. And I don't think the Switch 2 lineup thus far, at least, really sort of matches that. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with that aspect. But of course, Nintendo is not the only company that is making games for this system. We also have to talk about third-party games, and this is where I feel the conversation is actually a lot more interesting, because as far as confirmed games that have release dates for 2025, we have Tony Hawk 3 and 4 Remastered, which I will be picking that up on the Switch 2. You know, the Switch 1 version is going to be that 30 frames nonsense, whereas the Switch 2 version is more than likely going to be 60 frames. I can't imagine it not being 60 frames. So that is going to be the superior version. They added in Bam Margera after Tony Hawk protested, which, you know, good on Tony Hawk, man. Like, I get it. Bam's been through some stuff and, like, very questionable things, and he's done very questionable things, but, like, that's your homie. That's the reason. That's one of the reasons why, you know, some of the subsequent Tony Hawk games sold so well, because of his popularity at the time. If you weren't around for it, you completely don't understand it. But good on Tony Hawk for sticking up for his boy. Madden 26 will be coming out in August. The first time Madden has been on a Nintendo platform since the Wii U. It's been a very long time for football fans, American football fans, real football fans, who have gotten a proper football game on the system. And I think Madden 26 is going to slot in there very nicely, because I mean, that's the only football game that exists anymore. And in the month of September, you have two games with Daemon X Machina and Sonic Racing Cross World. I probably will be picking up Sonic Racing Cross World. I am a fan of the Sonic Racing games. Daemon X Machina, maybe. I do think that this game looks better than the original game did, I should say, but Marvelous Entertainment's kind of weird about showing trailers of their games sometimes, so you'll just be looking at Sonic Racing Cross World. And then for the unknown third-party games, this is where I think things get a little bit interesting. Games that are coming out in 2025 allegedly, but do not have a concrete release day. I think, you know, there's a bunch of different games you could put on this list, and there are other third-party games that you could also put on this list as far as games that have a release date, such as Star Wars Outlaws, but nobody should buy that game because it's just honestly not a good game. But the two games that definitely stuck out to me were Final Fantasy VII Remake and Elden Ring Tarnished. Now, I will be picking up Final Fantasy VII Remake just for the culture, honestly. Like, I like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I want to see how it looks and runs on the Switch 2, especially compared to like the PlayStation 5 and stuff like that. It, of course, does have the intergrade content that was available in only the PlayStation 5 version of the game. And Elden Ring Tarnished, I'm not an Elden Ring fan, sorry. I'll try the other Dusk Bloods game in 2026. This isn't really for me. I probably won't pick it up, but I'm sure others will. And that's kind of it. And I think the third-party thing is probably one of the most eyebrow-raising thing for a lot of people, because obviously over the past, week or so, we have had a lot of third-party game announcements. We had a ton of games announced during Summer Game Fest. We had a ton of games announced during Xbox's showcase, which Xbox is pretty much a third-party company now because all of those games just about had a PlayStation 5 logo on them. But the Nintendo Switch 2 logo was very hard to find, and a lot of people were starting to wonder, is this going to be a situation similar to the Nintendo Switch 1, where a lot of the third-party games come over much later? Because, two of those games, well, really four of those games, I should say, all the games that have a concrete release date, I can't think sometimes, such as Tony Hawk, Madden, Daemon X Machina, and Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, the ones that are multi-platform, I think Daemon X Machina is just a timed console exclusive on the Switch 2. But Tony Hawk 3 and 4 is coming day and date. Madden is coming day and date, and Sonic Racing Cross World. But all the other games that were announced did not have that Switch 2 logo on there, so people are a bit concerned. is this going to be a Switch 1 situation with third-party games? And honestly, I don't think that's going to be the case. And I have to go back to my reasoning about potentially there still being a larger holiday-style game for the Nintendo Switch 2, and that is contingent on a Nintendo Direct, because Nintendo likes to control the narrative when it comes to their games getting announced or versions of games coming to their system. So, if they do a Nintendo Direct and they showcase a bunch of these third-party games, then the narrative will have to shift. But it's unfortunately an optics sort of situation right there, because people just initially see it and they're like, oh, well, this game isn't coming to the Switch 2. That kind of sucks. This third-party game isn't coming to the Switch 2. That kind of sucks. Like, I guess I just expected a bit more announcements by now. With the system being out, it seems like companies would have a bit of like free reign to talk about other projects that are coming. Like Capcom. Like, I expected Capcom to be talking about way more games for the Switch 2, but it hasn't happened quite yet. I do think that is indeed coming, though, so I would not be too concerned about the rest of 2025 for the Nintendo Switch 2. Regardless, there's going to be a bunch of games coming out like the games I just mentioned. You're going to like some of them. You're going to dislike some of them. But I do think there are still some secrets that remain for this year, and hopefully they are satisfying to Nintendo Switch 2 owners, and people will want to pick up a system based on some of these upcoming, yet-to-be-revealed announcements. Let me know in the comment section down below, though. How are you feeling about the immediate future of the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to both first and third-party support for the rest of 2025? Anything you're expecting to see, or anything you feel like I missed? I know there's a lot of JRPG-related stuff on that is coming to the Switch 2. Some of them just I don't know. There's like too many. Like I don't have time to play all of these, although I am RPG 85. So give me some of your recommendations for the people viewing this video in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I didn't feel like being on camera. My eye is kind of like twitching a little bit today. I don't know what's going on with that. So I didn't want to have a weird looking eye on camera because I don't know. I just didn't want to have a weird looking eye on camera, and then people would be like, oh, something's wrong with him. There's a lot of things wrong with me, but the eye, it's a temporary thing. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.